Health and fitness requires more than just the physical work. It starts with the work you put in to grow your mind. Welcome to the Mind Gains podcast, where we discuss what it takes mentally to see results physically. I'm your host, Jess. Let's get started. Hey guys, we're back today with another episode of the Mind Gains podcast. I am really excited to be sitting here today, again, just recording another episode. I feel like I haven't been able to podcast too much lately, just because, again, getting the production of this show up and running with adding in the visuals to it so I can upload it to YouTube has been seriously crazy. Like, when I tell you that I am legitimately running into problem after problem after problem after problem after problem, and it just continues, honestly, even up until just now, not being able to get my mic to start working, even though it is brand spanking new. But we're still here. We're still doing it. I'm not going to quit. It's been really rough, but we will continue doing our best and get better with time. And if you are actually watching this and you see that my eye is super red, just know that I have been scratching the heck out of it because my allergies have been so incredibly insane. I have been sneezing like crazy, nonstop. Doesn't matter if I'm taking allergy medicine. I'm scratching my eyeballs out, which has been really awful, but we are getting through this seasonal allergy weather together. And today I want to get into a topic that gets asked about quite a bit, especially as we are getting into the summer months. I think just with social outings happening and a lot of plans that we have going on, I feel like there usually is some sort of drinking involved, some sort of alcohol involved, right? Like usually 9 times out of 10, that's what we see. And for anyone who is on this journey, that is like one of the first questions that they ask, right? Because they want to know if they can really include alcohol and still make strides towards their goals, and if they have to completely cut out the alcohol, or, what it means to moderately drink. So I want to talk today about all things alcohol. Does alcohol affect your progress? And before we really get into this, just a very quick disclaimer. This episode, just like all of my other episodes, is just for educational purposes. This is not medical advice. Please do not put my advice above the advice of your doctor, your healthcare professional. Their advice and their opinions for your specific situation come first, always. So just kind of to cover our bases, educational purposes, not advice for if you're trying to lose fat, if you should or should not include alcohol. Obviously, the answer for you is going to come down to mainly what your doctor says. If you're someone who's trying to lose weight for healthcare purposes, like your health is now at risk, listen to your doctor. Even if I'm like, yeah, it's okay to moderately drink, like listen to your doctor first. So now that we've got that covered and out of the way, let's just start with the basics of what alcohol is. Alcohol, otherwise known as ethanol, is a toxin to your body. So essentially, when you consume it, your body says, whoa, we got to get this out of here, stat. So the short answer to does alcohol affect my progress, just straight off the bat, is yes, 100% it affects your progress. Because when you do drink, your body prioritizes the metabolization of that alcohol prior to anything else, carbs, fats, protein, any other form of fuel. It puts on the back burner until the alcohol is out of your system. Now, does that mean that you should completely 100% cut it out if you are someone who genuinely really does enjoy a drink every now and then? No, because if you really enjoy it, I do still believe that you should include it in moderation, but we will also get into what moderation actually looks like, because it's probably very different than what you're thinking. So alcohol is pretty calorically dense. If you look at it in retrospect to every other macronutrient, because technically alcohol is considered a macronutrient because it does provide calories, it provides 7 calories for every 1 gram. So when you look at it in comparison with the other macros, which are proteins, carbs, and fats, it is pretty calorically dense. Now, proteins and carbs provide 4 calories for every 1 gram, whereas fats provide 9 calories for every 1 gram. So alcohol, providing 7 calories for every gram, does fall right in between proteins, carbs, and then where fats are. But the difference between alcohol and something like fat that is pretty calorically dense is that the alcohol does not contain any nutritional value whatsoever. So it's pretty calorically dense. it does provide calories and it's technically considered a macronutrient because it provides those calories. But whereas the other macros actually provide you some nutritional value, the alcohol provides nothing. And depending on how much you're drinking, it can significantly impact your decision making. Think about when you want to go out drinking. You usually want to, or at least end up, consuming quite a bit of food as well, right? You're usually overindulging on foods when your inhibitions are lower. So now that we know that when we drink alcohol, the metabolization of everything else gets shut down. Your body prioritizes getting the toxin out of your system as quickly as possible. So it's not going to be out here burning the carbs and the fats that you're eating along with it. It's going to be only burning that alcohol. Think about the foods that you're eating when you do go out to drink. Because I can pretty much guarantee you, you're probably not ordering a salad or chicken and rice. You're probably going to be getting things like burgers and wings and fries, like loaded up with cheese and bacon and all the good things, right? Like very, very calorically dense foods. That all gets put to storage. Now, this is not to scare you like, oh my gosh, I can never have a drink again in my entire life, especially if I'm trying to lose fat. Like, I can't afford it. Like, no, of course, just like with everything else, moderation is key. Moderate alcohol consumption will not prevent you from ever seeing fat loss. However, it can make it very hard to stay in a consistent calorie deficit, which is what's needed in order to lose fat, especially if you are drinking pretty often. And on the muscle building side, frequent alcohol consumption can really impair muscle protein synthesis, which is the building of muscle mass. So muscle growth happens when muscle protein synthesis exceeds muscle protein breakdown. So I know I've kind of gone over this before in previous episodes, but your body is in a constant state of protein turnover. So it's constantly breaking down proteins in your body. The only time we're able to build muscle is when we are able to kind of level things out, but then exceed a little bit. So it's constantly breaking down the muscle mass, but you want to be constantly building it as well. And so if you're not building muscle and you're not consuming enough protein and doing all the right things, that balance is going to start doing this number. And now muscle protein breakdown is now exceeding the synthesis of it, causing us to lose muscle mass. And we're definitely not building it. And alcohol has been shown to directly suppress muscle protein synthesis. This is because alcohol interferes with signaling pathways that is needed for muscle repair and muscle growth. Think about this like a house you're trying to build, right? You have all the materials, you have all the tools, all the workers are ready to start working on your house and building it and putting it together for you. You're pumped. You're like, let's get this house built. I got to be out of my current apartment in 6 months because my lease is going to be up. So let's get this done. The workers tell you initially that they can get the job done in 6 months, but then they start having a little drinky drink around 2 p.m. every day. So they start moving slow. And before you know it, it's taking them 10 months to do something that they said they could do in 6 months. And the reason I'm pulling this example is because this is pretty much exactly what happened to us when we were trying to move into this house. The workers were not drinking every day, at least as far as I know, but they did take forever. They just kept pushing the closing date, pushing the closing date, pushing the closing date. It took them way longer than they said initially. And yeah, we eventually got into the house much later than they said we would, but I would have preferred to get in here much earlier when they initially said that we'd be able to. But anyways, the alcohol slows down the workers or even potentially shuts the job site down for the night. Same thing in your body. Consuming alcohol, especially very frequently, can cause your fat loss journey to take a lot longer than you probably want it to because your body is prioritizing the metabolization of the alcohol rather than the oxidation of fat. So as long as fat loss and muscle building already take, throwing in alcohol in there every single week is probably going to significantly push back the timeline of you reaching your goals. But alcohol can also really affect our sleep quality. It can cause a lot of disruptions throughout the night, especially during REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement, which is where you're really processing things from the day. You're processing your emotions, you're processing the thing that happened to you at work, you're processing the information that you learned throughout the day so that it can transfer over into more long-term memory. And also your deep sleep, which is that deep restorative sleep. We also tend to see a decrease in recovery when it comes to alcohol consumption. So again, if you are working out, which if you're on a health and fitness journey, you should be working out, but It can affect your recovery from your gym time, your training sessions. If you're someone who's playing sports or just an athlete of any sort, it can really affect your recovery time. It can really increase inflammation, decrease hydration. Again, it's a toxin, so your body isn't going to love the fact that you're consuming it. If you're someone who's a high performer physically, you're a D1 athlete, you're training for a marathon or a triathlon, alcohol reduces coordination and performance. And again, it affects how well you're recovering and training for your sport. Frequent consumption also plays a really big factor in your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone that promotes muscle breakdown. And it can greatly slow down or even completely hinder any fat loss attempts if you're someone who's experiencing chronically elevated cortisol levels. I will say it again, it is a toxin to your body, so it's going to be a stressor to your body. You can't expect your body to thrive under less than optimal circumstances. You can't expect to consistently consume alcohol and see phenomenal fat loss and muscle building results. Those two things just don't coincide together. These two things happen when you are putting your body in the optimal position to be able to lose body fat and build muscle, not when you're putting a toxin in your body every single Friday night. So, with that being said, let's talk about what moderation truly looks like, because this is where most people get tripped up. They tend to think, I don't drink too often. I just go out every weekend. That's all I do, but I don't drink through the week. Monday through Friday, no, I don't drink through the week, only on the weekends. And they think it's not drinking a lot when they're having 2 to 3 drinks 2 days out of the week, every single week. A moderate intake is one, maybe 2 drinks once a week, max. As an absolute max, that is it. This is not the standard, every single week I have 2 drinks. Like, this is the absolute max. If you're someone who's looking to lose weight, I would actually say this might even be a little bit too much. So ideally, you would want to be having 1 to 2 drinks on special occasions once or twice a month. Now, that's probably a lot less than you were thinking, but that's what a moderate intake with alcohol consumption looks like, especially if you have a fat loss goal. If you have a fat loss goal, you are now in a position where you are going to have to make some sacrifices. It's going to happen. If you are now in a position that you have to lose body fat, you now have to make some sacrifices. And that does not by any means mean that you have to completely cut the alcohol out, but we do need to make some better decisions here for our overall health and well-being, because we haven't been doing that in the past. So now we deal with the consequences of that. But your drink of choice also matters a ton. Whether you're having the mixed sugary drinks versus more of like just a wine or a seltzer, like these things do really, really matter as well. Again, you'd probably want to stay away from the sugary drinks as much as humanly possible, especially if you are in a fat loss phase, you're in a cut, you're in a calorie deficit. Stay away from sugary drinks as much as possible. Mixed drinks, cocktails, frozen drinks, those are some of the worst. And, maybe choose some better options. Again, like a seltzer, maybe add some lime in there. Wine, like a standard seltzer, I believe is about 100 calories. Wine, maybe for like 5 ounces, depending on the type you get, maybe 125 to 150 calories. Whereas sometimes you get one frozen marg, and that can be anywhere from like 250 to even up to 500 calories, depending on where you're getting it from, which is absolutely insane, mind you. I would rather drive myself to Chick-fil-A and go get a chicken sandwich rather than have a frozen marg. I'm sorry. And I know that's just me and that's my opinion, and we're all different with that, but there is not a chance on earth if you gave me these two options, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, let me get the frozen marg over the Chick-fil-A sandwich. Like, it's just not going to happen. And on top of that, the chicken sandwich, at least we get protein, we get carbs, we get fats, we get the good stuff, the nutritional value, and we don't have to stop fat burning during that time. But anyways, it's just a tangent. That's just my opinion. So if you are someone who's in a fat loss phase and you say, I'm going to go out tonight, I'm just going to get 1 to 2 frozen margaritas, there's a good chance that your drinks alone were more calorically dense than the entire meal you ate for dinner. And you got nothing from it, like not a single thing nutritionally. So if you are going to drink, sticking to some better options, 1 to 2 drinks, again, seltzers, wines, things like that, maybe even a beer, depending. I don't know, you kind of have to check the nutrition on that. Sticking to those choices is going to be a lot smarter. if you're someone who is trying to maintain a calorie deficit and lose some weight, you're also going to want to make sure that you are tracking your alcohol as well. There are so many times I talk to people and they completely forget that they have to track alcohol. But remember, alcohol contains calories. So even though there's no nutritional benefit, we still have to track it because we are consuming calories. And oftentimes we're consuming a lot more than we think we are. So when you are tracking your alcohol, you want to either allocate the calories for it to carbs or fats. You could do a mixture of both if you want, but in my opinion, it's just easier to pick one over the other. And I usually stick with carbs just because carbs you have a higher intake with, it's a little bit easier to allocate there sometimes. But the way you want to do this, and I'm going to do my best to explain this because this is a podcast and it's going to be maybe difficult to follow along here because I can't like show you the math that I'm doing, but it actually is very, very simple math. So to start off, let's reiterate, there are 4 calories for every 1 gram of carbohydrate, and there are 9 calories for every 1 gram of fats. So if you have a drink, let's just say it's 100 calories, you're having a seltzer, it's 100 calories. You want to allocate that to carbs. You would take 100 calories and you would divide it by 4 in order to find out how many grams of carbs that drink is. So if you were allocating that seltzer under your carbs, that would be 25 grams of carbs. Now, if you wanted to allocate it for fats, again, you would divide it by 9 because there's 9 calories for every 1 gram of fat. So 100 divided by 9 is 11.1. So you could either track that seltzer as 25 grams of carbs or 11.1 grams of fats. But please make sure that you are tracking your alcohol. And something that I usually ask myself in a situation, if I know that I have the opportunity to drink, I know I potentially could drink, I might have 1 or 2, something that I ask myself that I've found has really helped me determine if I want to drink or not is, am I okay with my body not burning any fat for the next X amount of hours, just depending on how much I wanted to drink? Usually for me, in my personal opinion, the answer is no, but sometimes the answer is yes. Again, special occasions, if you're really wanting it, yeah, absolutely. But especially if I'm in a cut, no, it's probably not worth it to me to have one drink and have my body stop burning fat and have it take even longer for me to reach my goals when it, in my opinion, already takes a pretty decent amount of time. I'm not willing to put fat burning on the back burner for a little while. But again, your answer is going to change depending on the situation. So again, special occasions, yeah, probably. If you're at a wedding and you want to drink at your wedding, of course. If you want to celebrate your anniversary with your husband or your wife, your boyfriend, like, okay. But happy hour with your coworkers, I don't know. You might decide not to. You're at a family event on Saturday and you're offered a beer, you might decide to say no. So picking and choosing when it's really important to you to kind of indulge in that drink and when it's important to put your goals and focus is going to be really, really important. And if you do plan to drink, you need to go into that occasion, whatever it is, whether it is happy hour or it is your best friend's wedding. Like, if you know you're going to drink, you need to go into the event ahead of time with a plan laid out for yourself. If you don't go in with a plan, you're going to probably overindulge a little bit too much because you didn't have anything to fall back on. So go in with a plan, set a healthy limit with yourself, say 1 to 2 drinks, whatever is going to work for you in that situation. Plan ahead the rest of the day by making sure that you are, eating meals that do support you going out for drinks later that night. Prioritize hydration. Make sure you are drinking your water before you go out with your girlfriends on Friday night. I mean, you should be doing that anyway, but you know what I mean. Really prioritize hydration, prioritize recovery. Don't drink after your workouts, don't drink after any exercise, and be mindful of the caloric intake of the drinks that you are having. So yes, you can, of course, still include alcohol and make progress, as long as you are strategic and truly moderate about it. And you don't get to define what moderation looks like for you. You get to define what balance looks like, but moderation, especially when it comes to drinking, there is an actual definition for that, and you don't get to decide what that means. You have to abide by that definition. But if your goals are a little bit more time sensitive or aggressive, if you want to cut down, you want to lean down for the summer, or you have your wedding, right? You have your wedding in 3 months you want to lean down for, or if you're someone who your health is now at risk and you do need to lose some weight a little bit more aggressively, it's probably worth it to cut back alcohol a little bit even more so, at least temporarily for the time being. Ask yourself how important your goals are to you. Like, truly, how important are they to you? Do you value them? Because your actions are going to show whether you do or you don't. Your actions and your decisions show where your values lie. And if it matters enough to you, I don't care how hard it is, you're going to do it. So ask yourself, how important are your goals to you? And is drinking progressing you or preventing you from becoming the version of yourself that you're trying to become? Progress does not require perfection, but it does require a lot of self awareness and a lot of honesty. So if you are drinking regularly and you are frustrated with your results or a plateau, this might be the missing link. If this episode gave you some clarity or an aha moment, screenshot it, add it to your story, tag me in it. I would love to see that. And I would love to hear from you if you have any thoughts or any questions that you want further clarity on. And if you're ready for personalized guidance that balances real life with sustainable results, DM me on Instagram or check out the application link for one-on-one coaching in my bio. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.